بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to another episode of Islamic Politics in America. This show, to give a brief introduction, is about this vision and purpose that Mufti Sahib has for not only the youth in America or the West, but all people around the world, especially Muslims. The idea being that politics isn't separate from Islam, and Islam isn't separate from politics. We see many examples, of course, with how the Prophet ﷺ, when he migrated from Mecca to Medina, he established a state, an Islamic state there, that was in charge of administering governance, administering the norms and responsibilities of all people. And the Prophet ﷺ established his political power in Medina as well, and that was taken up afterwards by the four rightly guided caliphs, or the Khulafa al-Rashidun as well, Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, Umar radiallahu anh, Uthman radiallahu anh, and Ali radiallahu anh. So that's the vision and purpose that Mufti Sahib has for this show in particular. Now, in these episodes we'll be going into, of course, as always, multiple topics, and hopefully those topics pertain to the importance that we can give and look towards in our religion, Islam, as well. So, for example, last episode we talked about this idea of letter writing. Well, of course, we talked about a multitude of topics, of course, but I think two that I really want to make sure that people take away or took away from that episode was this idea of changing your circumstances. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, in Surah Al-Ra'd, He says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُوا مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. That indeed, verily, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't change a situation of a people until they change their own situations themselves. So there's this idea of struggle, of going in and doing the work, putting in the work on your part, making sure you're doing your part in order to effect change. Now, also, the Prophet ﷺ says in a hadith, مَنْ رَأَى مِنْكُمْ مُنْكَرًا فَلْيُغَيِّرْهُ بِيَدِهِ. If you see something bad, then as Muslims, as people, we should do something about it. فَلْيُغَيِّرْهُ بِيَدِهِ. We should use our hands to do something. Think about how we use our hands for literally every single thing that we do. You wake up in the morning and you use your hands to open a door, or to get out of bed, or to use a toothbrush. Your hands are fundamentally the one thing that you use for so many different things. It's the start through which you take action, whether it's picking up a phone and making a phone call or something, or someone. So take action. Use your hands to take action. فَإِن لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ فَبِلِسَانِهِ. If you don't have the power to take action, if you don't have the mulk, the dominion, the power to do so, if that's not your prerogative, if it's not your domain, you're not in those positions of power, then talk about it. فَإِن لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ فَبِلِسَانِهِ. Use your tongue to talk about it and tell people that this thing is wrong, so and so is wrong, or we should change things and not keep them the way they are, not stay in this status quo. فَإِن لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ فَبِقَلْبِهِ. And if you can't even do that, if you can't even speak out against injustice, then at the very least, think bad about it in your heart. فَبِقَلْبِهِ. Use your heart to think bad about it. وَذَلِكَ أَضْعَفُ الْإِيمَانِ. And that is the weakest level of faith. Now, when it comes to changing our circumstances and surroundings, if we start off with a broad aspect, if we think about the whole world, for example, and how there are Muslims around the world in different countries, whether Muslim countries or non-Muslim countries, and how we hear as Muslims, no matter where we're living, about the situations of our fellow Muslim brothers and sisters all across the world in different places. And we think and we feel for them. But many a times it's important for us to not only just think and feel for them or make dua for them, but to take some action wherever we can. And in order for that to happen, we need to have some kind of power, some kind of dominion. We have to be in the room where it happens. We have to have those positions of power. So in order for that to happen, we need to be politically aware. We need to be aware that in our religion it is totally okay for us to be in those positions of power, in those positions of governance. We need to understand how government takes place. And that is essentially what this show and what last episode we talked about, essentially. It was about letter writing, which was one aspect, one topic, one thing that we can do when it comes to taking action. So if we think about that hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, it's not just about staying on that weakest level of faith, which is to just think bad about it, but how can I go further? Okay, usually I may use my social media and say, like or comment or subscribe or repost or post or do something to put this specific post about some atrocity around the world, to put it onto the feed of someone else and get the algorithms going, make sure more people are knowing about this or are more aware of this. But another thing in terms of action that we really can take, and that we talked about in the last episode, was and is letter writing. And we mentioned and connected it to how the Prophet ﷺ, subhanAllah, also used letter writing as a way to do his tabligh, as a way to tell other rulers and the people of those rulers about Islam and spreading that message. So we talked about letter writing and how you can pick up a pen and start writing down on a piece of paper, write a letter to those in power. You could go as high as you want if you want to, or you could start off low as well, with just your local representatives and local people who work in your local township or city council. So that's a bit of a recap about what we talked about last episode. Now when it comes to this episode, the topic that I have at hand is kind of learning more about and having more knowledge of our local city council officials. So if we take, say, the topic from last episode and we think about, okay, letter writing, that's something in my toolkit that I can use to affect change within my local sphere, within my town or city or council or whatever that may be. Now, how do I get to or contact those people? How do I contact the people in power that are in charge of and are responsible for and thus are accountable towards what is going on in my neighborhood? So, to sum it up pretty briefly, if you live in a neighborhood, your neighborhood probably has different wards or city councils. So for example, if you live in a town or a city, that town or city might be distributed into different wards. It might be Ward A, B, C, D, E, F, and so on and so forth, depending on how big the township or the town or the city is. Sometimes it might be Ward 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc., and so on and so forth. So depending on that, depending on how big your city or town or township is, you might be living in one of those wards. You might be living in Ward 1, Ward 2, Ward A, B, C, F, E. And so depending on that, you can then look up either on Google or on the internet, you can look up which ward you live in, and typically, for those wards, you typically have 1 or 2 council persons or council members. So depending on the township and the size and how many wards there are, maybe the one ward is so big that you have 1 or 2 people as council members for that ward, but typically you will have at least 1 council member who is responsible for that ward. Now, what is that council person responsible for? You might think, oh, this person is the one who decides like super big things, like how to do foreign policy, or maybe this person who is responsible for this ward is responsible for how to respond to foreign attacks and foreign threats, or raising their voice on an issue that's happening overseas. Or you think this ward is responsible for the schools across the nation or across the state. But it's really not that big or not that political in a sense. Actually, one of the most important responsibilities that these council members are responsible for and should be held accountable towards is really small things like picking up your garbage. So, funnily enough, that is one important aspect of local government. If the garbage truck doesn't come to pick up your garbage, then that is the person you go to, that council member for your ward. You pick up a phone, call them up, or you go to the local municipal township office and you talk to them. You tell them, hey, this is my council member, I need to speak to them, and I need to talk to them about how this problem came up and nobody's picked up my garbage. So something as simple as picking up the garbage, that is something that your local government is responsible for. Other things typically may include stop signs or traffic lights. There might be an intersection in your neighborhood which you might live close by to, and you might think that this intersection is very dangerous. Like there's a lot of cars that come by very, very fast. Even though the speed limit is 25, these people still are zooming by. They're not really paying attention to these stop signs. And so you could decide to call upon that local council member and say, hey, I think we should have a stop sign that has lights around it so that people can see the stop sign clearly, and they should then obey the stop sign and stop. Or maybe you might say, hey, you know what, these stop signs aren't working. We should probably put a traffic signal up by that intersection that can then show a light towards people, so that people, when you see that red light or something, they would then stop. So those are things that you can do in your local government to affect change, and those are the problems, those small problems within your local township that you would go to a council member or a council person for. So I hope that gives a good overview of what exactly it is that we can go to our local council members and townships for. And when we think about letter writing, who do we write those letters to, and what do we write those letters about? So with that, we'll take a quick break from this first section, and in the next section, we'll welcome an Islamic scholar in and talk about the Islamic perspective to these things and what Islam says about responsibility and accountability. So stick with us, stay tuned.
The future of halal real estate financing is here. Break free from interest-based banks. Using blockchain technology, Ethi is the first ever halal crypto token backed by rent-to-own real estate. Ijara CDC is offering a limited-time pre-sale offer to buy Ethi tokens. At just 1 cent per token, it only has to go to 2 cents to double. Approved and halal certified by Grand Mufti of America, Dr. Mufti Muneer Ahmed Akhoon. Be a part of the halal crypto revolution. Call 1-866-GET-ETHI. That's 1-866-438-3844 to buy Ethi tokens.
Every day, we face new health challenges. We need a stronger immune defense to enjoy a healthy life. Supplement your nutrition with halal vitamins from Shafi Nutrition to build strength, agility, and immunity. Shafi Nutrition supplements are scientifically formulated and made from premium quality ingredients. Our vitamins help promote healthy heart, eye, hair, and skin health, and potentially decrease stress and anxiety. Shafi Nutrition products are halal certified by Grand Mufti of America, Dr. Mufti Muneer Ahmed Akhoon. Order your halal vitamins from ShafiNutrition.com or call 1-877-HI-SHAFI.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us here on Islamic Politics in America. Now for my second segment, I want to turn the mic towards an Islamic scholar, one we know and love very much, Mulana Tahsin Akhoon. Mulana Tahsin, assalamu alaikum. How's it going?
Good.
Nice to see you as always. Decked out, mashallah.
Thank you.
So for this segment, we kind of going off of the first segment and this idea of responsibility and accountability, I want to talk more about what, say, the Islamic perspective or what Islam says about that topic, about responsibility, about accountability. Is there maybe like, a word in Arabic for that? Is there some kind of Islamic terminology towards that as well? If you could enlighten us.
There is Islamic concept of hisba or ihtisab. Ihtisab is accountability of within the state, within personality, where the famous hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where it says, "Kullukum ra'in, kullukum mas'ulin an ra'iyatihi." That each one of you are a shepherd and you're responsible of your herd, of your cattle.
Right.
So basically referring to as an individual, you have family, you're responsible for your family and their well-being, and if you're a statesman, you're responsible for the state, and
right.
and if you're even bigger, if you're president of this state governor or so, you're responsible of their behavior and bringing goodness to them. Hizbah is of like accountability, auditing. In other words, you could say in politics, in governments and stuff, and it's a very important part of society. If a person doesn't have accountability, doesn't have any sort of repercussions, then no one will function, right? If a teacher or a student, if a teacher is a liar, then the student will feel hesitant to learn from him. If a student is a thief, this teacher would feel hesitant to give him the knowledge. So just because of just from basic form, if there's just this corruption, and just an example that I give, then the society won't function.
Right.
Everyone would hide themselves, would protect themselves, and it would not grow and it would not prosper. And you could see in many of the nations nowadays, those who have justice done correctly, right, and giving full rights to the citizens, and those who are immigrants, and you could see them prospering, and those countries that are like pushing away from being just with one another, and you could see the difference between them two. You could see first world countries versus third world countries, and you could see the difference in the behavior between in the people, and also as public in there. And this, so a famous example that comes, like if you're asking within the Islamic perspective, it's a big topic, and it's very emphasized in Islam, and in Islamic history it was implemented. And starting from Rasulullah ﷺ, right? Even in the Quran, so many words that you are the best of nation. تَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَتَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ. That you enjoin people towards good and protect them from committing evil, right? This is your responsibility as a nation, and Quran constantly talks about that you're the best of nation. You have to, and you're given, and told Rasulullah ﷺ that you are vigilant over all the nations, not just to the Muslim, but all the nations that you witness over them, and you have to be vigilant over their actions, not just within yours, with other nations as well. And the story from the lives of the Prophet ﷺ, it shows such the leader he was, if we were to compare to ourselves to them, and this is amazing. And so many stories I've mentioned. There's a Sahabi named Ukasha radiallahu anh. So one time Rasulullah made an announcement that is there anything I have done to anyone, please come forward and take your revenge for it. Is there anyone? Allah. He made an announcement. No one moved. It's like Rasulullah ﷺ is asking this. Everyone is just shocked that before the battle this was going on. So he made an announcement once, and then he made an announcement twice. And the third time, Ukasha raised his hand. He said, "Yes, I have something. I have something for you, Rasulullah." He said, "What?" He said that one time you whipped me on my back. We were in a certain expedition or so. You whipped me in my back, and I want to even it out. And
so he used a whip to...
Yeah, he whipped him, maybe put him into line or just accidentally, whatever it was. So he held it and he said, "Ya Rasulullah, you whipped me at that time." So Rasulullah, and he said, "Then go ahead, take your revenge."
Allah.
And he said, but I had no shirt on. I was in close to Rasulullah subhanahu wa ta'ala, being so such humility he showed that he took his qamis off.
Wow.
And exposed his back. And so Kasha ran and he hugged the Prophet ﷺ and kissed the seal of the Prophet ﷺ.
Subhanallah.
He said, "Ya Rasulullah, I wasn't really going to take this, but I want to take this opportunity to actually see the seal and kiss the seal of the Prophet ﷺ out of love of the Sahaba that he had." There wasn't that he was going to take anything from Rasulullah ﷺ, but just the love that he had, and he just moved. But it shows that Rasulullah ﷺ is willing to do this.
Right.
They're his student, they're his follower. If he says, "Who are you to ask me?" He had all the right to do that. But to show us as a ummah that he's willing to go to that state, willing to expose his back, and he's not just ordinary individual. He's a Nabi of Allah, he's a prophet, and he's their mentor. But he's willing to, humble himself amongst this. This is called hisbah. Hey, take accountability.
Yeah.
You have full right to. Another story that comes in Badr. There was an Ansari Sahabi. So Rasulullah made the announcement, "Hey, forgive everyone. If anybody did wrong to you, move forward." I wouldn't say wrong. It's anyone that needs to.
Kind of
say
iron
something.
out things, reconciliate.
So this Sahabi moved forward. He said, "Ya Rasulullah, I have." He said, one time you poked me in my stomach." So I said, "Go ahead, poke me." He said, "But I didn't have no shirt on." So other Sahaba was like, "What's wrong with this Sahabi? What's wrong with him?" He's saying this to Rasulullah ﷺ before the battle in Badr. Excuse me. So Rasulullah exposed his stomach and he moved forward and kissed and he hugged the Prophet ﷺ and kissed the stomach of Rasulullah ﷺ out of love. And Rasulullah said, "Why did you do this?" He said that, "Ya Rasulullah, this is my last moment. We're going in battle. I will not get any chance to have a skin to skin with the Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I just took this opportunity to do this." This was the love of the Prophet, love of the Sahaba had for Rasulullah ﷺ. But Rasulullah ﷺ is offering this. That's what we have to learn the lesson from. That he's willing to fulfill the rights of others if they think they did wrong that he did wrong to them. But it wasn't nothing that Rasulullah ﷺ did to the Sahaba, and the Sahaba were just out of love. They just wanted to, feel the love of the Prophet ﷺ and to have skin to skin before he doesn't know if he's gonna make it. And then the Sahabi, I think, passed away in Badr.
Allahu Akbar.
So and so. So this is one of the incidents that comes in mind in hisbah and accountability. And also Umar bin Khattab is in time of Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, he took the khilafat after the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he implemented the same law that he said that I would even take the to take zakat from the people. At the time of Umar bin Khattab is telling, "Hey, let's bring order to the state before we even go and start implementing villages."
Yes, I remember this,
allowing people to come and pray in namaz. He says, "Let's slow it down. Let's get in order. Let's get the militants ready," and so and so. And famous line of Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, he said that even if I have to, if the dogs of Medina drags me onto the streets and prevent me, I will still go out and fulfill the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and bring justice to the land. And he said, I would even take the rein, the rope that is tied, that is given in zakat or sadaqah, even take the rope. I would not even let go the rope of zakat of the animal. This would also be accounted in thing. being so much cautious that, if the animal is given, what's the point of the rope? He said, I'm even going to take the rope from the animal for zakat. I'm not even going to let that go from zakat.
Oh, wow.
To
So
bringing order to the thing, taking accountability from the people. And that's what he did, and he brought balance to the state. And of course, Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh, that one time he was with Hudhafa bin Yaman, and he said Hudhafa bin Yaman and then Usman bin Hunayf radiallahu anhum. So he said that you guys have put taxations to the people of Iraq. It seems you did too much. I need to see what is going on. I need to bring how much tax you're charging these people. It seems like it's a lot, and I want to see this if you have done it morally with justly. So it shows that Umar bin Khattab personally is taking interest. He's Khalifa. They could have told him, don't worry, you're the Khalifa. You stay back. Let us deal with the minute matters of taxing people. Let us take care of that. No, he personally took interest in it and looked into that thing, and he said, no, this is perfectly fine. You have taxed the people according to their level, according to their caliber. You haven't charged them too much. And he did that. This is right before he was assassinated. That's one of the great story that comes in mind. Other quick story, I would go. I think before time runs out. And Rasulullah said in a hadith, he said that if you can't stop, whoever amongst you cannot, if you see evil, he says stop with your hand, prevent the person from hand. It's not just. He said if you see your brother do this, you have to stop him first. But if you don't have the power to do this, you don't have the strength to do this, at least be vocal about it. At least be vocal about it. He said you can't even do that with your tongue. You cannot be even vocal. You're in such a situation which you're not able to do this. He said then at least do with your heart. At least feel the guilt that, or make dua for them. That, oh Allah, these people are in such evil, protect them. That's hisbah, that's accountability that you have to bring within your surrounding. He said this is one of the lowest level of iman, feeling bad in your heart. Feeling bad in your heart, that's the lowest of iman. And one of the famous hadiths of current time that we are going through, what Rasulullah said, he said, enjoin people towards good, prevent them from evil. He said that my soul is in the hand of the one, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he said that if you don't do this, he said then Allah will send punishment towards your way, and He will send punishment. And when you call on to Him, He will not listen to you. He will not listen to you just because of injustice. And in time of Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh, there was two men. They were dragging this boy to him. He was a Khalifa. And he said he killed our father. So Umar bin Khattab asked him, hey, did you kill their father? And because now qisas will be implemented, meaning execution of the person because he killed the father. Right. So he said, did you kill their father? He said, yes, I have done it. It was. He said, what's the story? Why did you do it? He said, I have a camel, and he used to go graze in his garden. And he said, and he would always prevent him from grazing. And one day he took a rock and tossed it at the camel, and it ruptured his eye. And out of anger and sympathy towards the camel, I tossed a rock back at the father and hit him in the head, and he passed away. He was killed. So Umar bin Khattab said. So then we have, as he said, Umar bin Khattab told the two sons to forgive him. Forgive him, and he said, no, we want qisas, we want revenge. He needs to get executed. So Umar bin Khattab said, told the boy that this is Sharia. You need to be executed for this. He said, do you have any last wishes or anything that you desire before you get executed? So the boy said, give me 3 days. My father have accumulated wealth, and let me give this responsibility of this wealth to my family, my brother or whoever it is. Let me just fulfill a few errands that have to run before I go. Before I get executed. Umar ibn Khattab said, is there anyone that is going to give you that would give guarantee on behalf of you? Anything that you will leave, that how do I know you're going to come back? So the boy asked around in the crowd, there was a group that was gathered around in the court, is there anyone that would stay, would be held on my behalf as a guarantee? No one stood. He announced it once, twice, and the third time he announced it again. There was no, there was silent. In the back, there was a elder individual stood up, raised his hand. He said, "I'll give guarantee. I'll stay in jail on behalf of, in captivity, in behalf of the boy. Let him do his errand, and he will come back." And that was the Sahabi Abu Dhar Ghifari radiyallahu anhu. So the 3 days, so everybody's worried. Abu Dhar Ghifari, one of the greatest Sahabi of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if the boy doesn't come back, he's going to get executed in his behalf. So the people are asking Abu Dhar, do you think the boy is going to come back? He said, don't worry, there's still time. This Asr Salah happened. He doesn't show up. Almost close to Maghrib. And the people around him are worried. Abu Dhar Ghifari is also, he wasn't worried. And they're asking him, he said, don't worry, it's still time. Let the Salah happen of Maghrib, then we'll see what happens. Then eventually, last moment, the boy showed up with gasping, running, and he comes and shows up. And Umar ibn Khattab is surprised. He said that this boy showed up. You know, if he didn't show up, if someone would get killed on his behalf, he's a free man. So and Umar was astonished and was surprised that he showed up. He said, so he asked the boy, what made you show up? You know, what prompted you, what motivated you, what inspired you to show up? And he said that it became one of the famous incidents. So the boy said, he said that I did not want to leave a mark on this earth. A Muslim made a promise and did not fulfill his promise. He made an oath that he did not fulfill his promise. He's like, subhanallah. And he asked Abu Dhar Ghifari, why did you put yourself in danger? You know, why did you put yourself as a guaranteed or as a person to be on the behalf of the boy? And he said, I did not want to leave a mark. A Muslim stood for help. He asked for help as a guarantee, but no one stood. And I didn't want to leave that mark. So as those two sons, those two brothers, they heard this, you know, interaction, one of them, and he said we don't want to leave a mark on this face of this earth. That a Muslim brother asked for forgiveness, and he wasn't granted forgiveness. He said, for this reason, we forgive this.
So the boy wasn't killed.
The boy wasn't killed. So it shows that the ihtisab, accountability, and it shows from the life of the Sahaba that how just they were, and how they kept themselves, held each one of them accountable. Abu Dhar Ghifari standing in front of things. He could have free Umar ibn Khattab, hey, you're a great Sahabi, you don't have to.
Yeah.
But no, they held to their core, even though it would have been an emotional thing if the story could have been the other way.
Yeah.
But they held each one of them accountable, and then the story says that we don't want to leave a mark that a Muslim makes a promise does not fulfill. We don't want to leave a mark when a Muslim called for help and no one was able to help him. And we don't want to leave a mark when a Muslim asked forgiveness and he wasn't forgiven. Yeah. So that's what Hizbah is. Hizbah in financial department, auditing, or taxations, everything has to be within personal life, within the thing. Ulama, they separate it. They say there's Hizbah within the individual and plus within the state. It's two different things. But the concept is the same. It's equality. It's to provide harmony within the state, within the household, within individual life. Spiritually, you have Hizbah as well, accountability of yours, and that's what the concept of Hizbah comes in.
Subhanallah, yeah. That's really cool to think about how that aspect comes in both your individual and the community aspect, community life as well. I do want to say a few things. One, when we think about the word Hizb, it's ha, sin, ba, correct? Yeah. And I believe the kind of connotations regarding it is about not just accountability, but accountability down to the very numbers, like down to the very last.
Hisab. It comes from hisab. That's where it comes
it's like down to the very last calculation or audit or number or decimal point or
That's
whatever.
right.
So it really goes to show, subhanAllah, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses this word hisab or hasab, to account for things, and how the connotation, the implication behind it in the back of your head should be not just accountable for something broad, but even within that broad thing, all the way down to the very last thing, you should be accountable for and make sure that you're keeping things correct in the best way possible. That story you mentioned of Ukasha radiallahu anhu, was he a young boy at the time, or was he rather an adult?
I don't know exactly, but yeah, he was in his youth. He was in his youth. He wasn't an elder person.
I see.
So
because I remember hearing that story, and I couldn't remember if he was a young boy or not. But really, a beautiful reminder, a beautiful story about how, the Prophet ﷺ. Because you think about it, there's this dynamic power, right? There's a huge power dynamic here, because the Prophet ﷺ is on this level, and all of his Sahaba and companions are on a totally different level. He's not only just the prophet, he's the statesman, he's the government leader of the whole Medina, of the state of Medina, and he has to be in charge of everything. And for him to put himself down to that level and say, you know what, no problem, I will make right if anyone has been wronged, if they think they've been wronged by me, right?
That's what it is. Great lesson that we could learn from it, that he's willing to go humble himself. There's
like to even take his shirt off.
Exactly.
As well.
That's what
to make it totally equal.
Correct.
Okay, you wanna get back at me in the same situations that you found yourself in. Okay, fine, I'll take my shirt off and everything. SubhanAllah, just a beautiful reminder of how, that's how accountability and hisab takes place. And if I may, I do want to kind of zone in a little bit more on the story that you mentioned about Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu.
Yes.
And because I think it's really pertinent to Islamic politics in America, just politics and governance in general, about how when he was a Khalifa at the time, I think as you mentioned, it was a governor in Iraq, was it? That he decided to, really go to extreme lengths and say, hey, what are you guys doing? What are the calculations? Is that totally okay? Are you taxing the people correctly? All that stuff.
Yes.
Is that exactly what happened?
Yeah, that's what it was. They were given responsibility, like Hudhafa bin Yaman and Uthman bin Hunayf radiallahu anhum. They were given responsibility to look into the tax, how much you are charging, because you can't tax a person who's, it's not like that in Islamically you have to tax a person according to his level.
Right.
You don't charge him over,
should be a certain percentage.
Certain percentage. So that's what he wanted to check, how much these people could afford and how much they could, and those taxation wasn't just for the state to just go rich or anything. It's to implement those, infrastructure for the state. It wasn't never used for, personal benefits or any other means, but just to bring harmony, safety to the people of the state.
It's to make sure that maybe water fountains or something are doing well, so people can get water from the wells, for example.
Exactly.
Providing those services
to
the people by using the taxes that the state gets from people. SubhanAllah, it's pretty much the same way how a lot of us living in our neighborhoods feel the same way. There's so many resources that are available. You might have libraries in your local township, and those libraries are taken care of by the local township or local municipal government. And the way they do that is through the taxes that we all pay. They take those taxes and they use that money towards providing the resources to people. It also reminds me of, say, like highway routes and trade routes back in the days. Those were also kept free, and with regards to traffic, we're just making sure that there's no like highway robberies and stuff going on as well. So the security, all that stuff is taken care of through the taxes, right?
That's what happened in time of Umar ibn Khattab, that he brought so much justice to this to the state that they were able to grow. Even like half of Africa was under the Islamic governance. The Arab Peninsula entirely was in it. Parts of China was in it, and it was moving further and further. just because of justice and bringing harmony to the state. And in time Umar bin Khattab, his justice was, impeccable there, and you could see from his, even historians, they're amazed within the 10 years that he was able to do so much.
Subhanallah. Yeah. I don't know if there's anything else that I would want to go into, but I just want to say thank you so much, and Jazakallah khair for all of those stories that go to show hisab and hasab and accountability, and how we can take that in our own lives as well. But not only just to take that into our own individual lives and make sure that, oh, I'm doing a good thing, or I'm being ethical wherever possible, or I'm making sure that if I hold a position of power, if I'm, say, the president of a board or executive board or an MSA or something, I don't use that position to my own personal benefit. But even when we think about accountability, also making sure that our leaders are also held accountable.
Yeah, one of the famous line of Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu, he's the one who doesn't do ihtisab, he's not awarded. He's
not rewarded.
He's not rewarded. He's not awarded, because saying that if you don't have this in your life, if you don't have accountability and hisbah in your life, personal life, within family life, community, and so in every way, he's saying if a person doesn't have this, he's nothing. He means nothing to him.
Yeah.
So that he lived with it. That's one of the part of justice is to have hisab and accountability of everything.
Right. It reminds me of I think it's that quote is attributed to Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu, hasibu qabla an tuhasabu.
Yes.
I think, right. So
there you go, correct. Yeah. That's what it is. Like if you don't do it, then someone else is going to do it for you.
Right. So hasibu, essentially that quote means be accountable for yourself.
Be accountable for yourself, or else you get counted in a court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what he meant. Or it means that if you don't hold yourself accountable, someone else is going to hold you accountable within this worldly life.
True.
If you look at it spiritually, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala holds you accountable. Yeah, you might earn extra dollar just by cheating. Where Rasulullah said, he said, if someone who cheats, he's not from us, he's not Muslim. So he said, you earn few dollars, but if you get caught, the state will take care of you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Just like one person, Umar bin Khattab, he was caught stealing, and his hand in Islamic Sharia is that hands needs to be one hand needs to be chopped off. So Umar bin Khattab was implementing that law, and he was about to chop his hand. He said, why did you steal? He said, he said, oh, don't cut my hand, because Allah, is in qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for me to steal. So Umar bin Khattab replied back with the same hasib, qabla an tuhasib. He said that yes, so Allah had wrote in my decree to cut your hand. So that's what the statement is. If you don't take accountable, someone else is going to hold you accountable.
And I think that's really important for us to keep our leaders accountable as well. So if we ever hear of our leaders, whether at the very local level or even at the very top, no matter what the case may be, if they're not accountable, if they are doing something wrong, if they're taking money from the wrong place, engaging in corruption, all that stuff, then it's important for us to also voice our concern through letter writing or calling them up, or any other way. We can use social media as well. And so I think it's important for us to think about that as well with regards to hasab, hisab, and accountability for sure. So with that, I want to thank you all for joining us on this episode of Islamic Politics in America. And I hope that you take this idea of accountability within Islam, not only just to keep it within Islam, but to take it to our individual lives and also the whole community life as well, in a broad sense as well. So, Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much for joining us on today's show, and we'll see you in the next episode. Assalamu alaikum.